All right. So come on in, fill out the poll, tell us where you want to go. Yes. So you've got Ghana, South Africa, or Spain. Alrighty. Do you want to show the responses? Yes.
Did not know that I needed to click a button to do that.
Here's here, so you know what the responses are. So we've got a lot of people who are looking at fall 21. Fingers crossed that we will be in a much better state by then, and you all will be able to go on your intended study abroad programs. But we will not ignore the fact that COVID is currently an issue, and we will discuss those things. And you guys can hear from our current recipients who are kind of navigating those waters right now to make their study abroad plans happen. So we're going to go ahead and close out this poll. We might be sending some more questions throughout. But let's go ahead and get started. So hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Paige Jennings, and I'm the National Fellowships Coordinator in the National Fellowships and Scholar Programs Office. Our office is a central advising location for nationally competitive awards, not just Gilman. I work very closely with Anuja, who will introduce herself shortly in the Education Abroad office on this Gilman Scholarship. And we're going to kind of tag team today's presentation along with some of our fellowship peer mentors who are U of SE students who have previously won Gilman, Freeman-Asia, and other things. So if Anuja can go ahead and introduce herself, that would be great.
Yeah, so Paige, I think, already introduced me pretty well. I work in the Education Abroad office. So if you have any questions about choosing your study abroad program, how to apply, just logistical questions about how the pandemic is affecting study abroad, I'm your go-to. If you're thinking, hey, I have no idea where to start about study abroad, don't go to Paige, come to me. That's a big one. Sometimes people get us mixed up, who does what. So all things study abroad, come over to our office, and sometime in this presentation, we're going to talk a little bit more about what you should do as far as next steps go for planning.
Yes, I'm glad that Anuja mentioned that. Yes, a lot of students are confused and think that we work in the same office, but we do not work in the same office, but we do work together on the Gilman and Freeman-Asia application efforts, and we'll talk about what roles we play with that a little bit later. As I said before, we're also joined by 3 of our fellowship peer mentors, and I will have them go ahead and introduce themselves. If you can tell us your name, your year, what you're majoring in, and where you're planning to study abroad. And we'll have Hannah go ahead and start.
All right. Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm a sophomore this year, IT major, and I'm planning on studying abroad in Japan. So hopefully that will happen this fall.
All right. Can we have Karen?
Hey guys, I'm Karen. I'm a junior studying international business and marketing, and I'm gonna be going to Hong Kong, and I'm a part of the IBCE cohort.
Thank you. And then I think Miyoshe, correct me on your pronunciation, is here.
Hey everyone, my name is Miyoshe Jefferson. I'm a senior studying political science, and I was a Gilman Scholar for spring 2020, and I studied abroad in Amman, Jordan.
Yes, so at least one of our peer mentors has been abroad and got to do some of the program. And so, Miyoshe, it would be really nice for you to talk about how Gilman handled the pandemic. So that's another concern I'm sure some students have if they do end up going abroad and things get worse. How will Gilman handle those things? So very happy to have you all here. Just to let you all know, you can ask questions throughout in the chat. Our peer mentors can try to respond to some of them as we go. We might take different pauses to answer the questions. So feel free to ask anything that you want. Our peer mentors are also available for coffee chats through our program or virtual chats. So if you want to have a meeting with them to talk about their experience applying for Gilman and other awards, please do reach out to us to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and share this presentation. And please let me know if you can see this. Alrighty. So today we're going to be focusing on the Gilman and Freeman-Asia scholarships. Very similar. The applications are almost identical. So if you are going to Asia, you should probably just apply for both. One thing that I'll mention now is that there are a lot of awards that you can stack. So if you're eligible for multiple awards, apply for multiple awards. And we'll have our FPMs talk about that a little bit as well, about how they covered the cost in addition to the Gilman funding that they received. But for now, I'm going to hand it over to Anuja, who is going to talk about study abroad.
Cool, thanks, Paige. I guess I can control the slides. Oh, Blackboard Collaborate, great. So I noticed in the chat, a few of you did write down a couple of locations that you're interested in going, but if you're still kind of up in the air, or you have a flexibility to study abroad multiple times or choose your location, so you're not married to a IB cohort, then there are a couple different ways that we would suggest that you start to think about what location might be the best fit for you. So some of those, okay, next slide. Why is it not working? There we go. So a couple of things to consider. So you have location, length, and program type. So we'll start with location. If you know that you have some sort of language interests, or you're really drawn to a specific culture that you'd like to learn more about, that's an easy fix for you, because you know if you want to learn Portuguese, you could go to Brazil. If you want to learn Thai, you're gonna go to Thailand. But if you are a little bit more flexible on location, you have the opportunity to think about which programs are going to be the cheapest option for you. So a lot of times students do study abroad in Western Europe, which is highlighted there, but these programs are going to be a little bit more expensive, just because higher cost of living. It's the same thing with Australia and New Zealand typically. These are going to be a little bit more expensive locations. So if you're looking for affordable options, the best thing to do is think about locations that have a little bit more of a lower cost of living. So this is typically pretty much all locations in Asia, some locations in Africa, Eastern Europe, and South America as well. So think about those as you're looking through your options, if you have the flexibility to choose programs across the globe. Something else to consider is program length. So a lot of times students think, okay, I can only go abroad for a short term, sometime over the summer, just because a shorter program is going to be cheaper. But if you think about this a little bit more, you're always going to have the same sunk costs of your flight, which is going to be one of the biggest fees typically. So if you're studying abroad in Asia, for example, your flights, they're going to vary from anywhere from 1,000 to maybe 1,600. If you're there for just about a month for a short-term program, you're still going to have to pay the same flight cost as you would if you're there for an entire semester. And oftentimes you get more bang for your buck in a sense if you do longer term programs. On a slide coming up, I have a little bit of an example of the breakdown of costs for summer, full semester, and whole academic year programs. And some of the peer mentors that are in the chat right now can kind of speak to why they've chosen their different lengths as well. So I'd actually love to call on Hannah, because Hannah is looking at a full year study abroad program. So Hannah, if you could just talk about why you've chosen a full year program.
Yeah, so I chose to do a full year in Japan, mostly just because like I really want to improve my language, and I figure the longer time I have to spend in the country, the more time I'll have to do so. And also, if I have like enough language ability, I want to take classes in Japanese. So like again, like I'll have more opportunities to take more classes.
As you're starting the study abroad process, you're going to see that there are so many different program types, so many different programs in general. We have over 2,000 programs in our approved list. So that can be very, very, very overwhelming. One of the program types that tends to be one of the most affordable is exchange programs. So with exchange programs, you do actually pay USC in-state tuition, even if you're an out-of-state student, and even if you don't have any sort of in-state tuition waiver. So it's always going to be billed at the in-state USC rate. If you have any sort of financial aid or scholarships, it's actually just going to roll out the same way that it would if you were on campus, because the system thinks that you're here. I think we have a couple folks, peer mentors, that did exchange programs or even international business exchange programs, which are kind of similar. So Karen, do you want to kind of talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So as someone who is an in-state student, like really nothing changed at all. It was such a simple and easy transition from me going in, like staying here at USC and like going to Hong Kong. So technically I was supposed to be there for the full academic year, but because of like the Hong Kong protests, we actually came back a little earlier, but that's okay. That's a side tangent. But yeah, and I guess everything, like the system, like Anuja said, like the system thinks you're here. And so everything that you get to keep. And then all of my out-of-state friends, like they got in-state tuition as well. So that was really nice.
Awesome, thank you. So the next type of program that I just want to highlight is the global partner programs. So a lot of times these partner programs, people think they're going to be more expensive because these are essentially study abroad companies that were created for US college students. You have a little bit more support, you have some excursions that are added into the program, so like field trips that you get to go on that are built into that program cost. But there are certain partner programs that focus specifically on making study abroad affordable for everyone. So this little chart, I love this chart, just to visualize a little bit about how much you can expect to spend on one of these USAC partner provider programs. So I know someone who is in this workshop right now is actually looking into potentially this Ghana program with USAC. And if you look at the cost for a full semester, it's about $7,000. What that includes is your tuition. It also includes your housing, and it also includes a lot of extra support on getting your visa, on booking a flight. When you're actually on the ground in Ghana, you're going to have an on-site resident director that can help answer all of your questions. And some of these programs are even cheaper. So in China and India, less than $6,000, which I'm pretty sure your USC in-state tuition for a full semester alone is just under $7,000, not to mention your housing. So on some of these programs, you can actually end up saving money, even as an in-state student, by doing one of those programs. Another one that I wanted to highlight very quick is TEEN. Oh, I just clicked too much. TEEN, which is the Education Abroad Network. So they actually focus on programs in Asia and the Pacific, so Australia and New Zealand. Australia and New Zealand are typically some of the more expensive locations, but their programming in Asia is really great, and they do focus on sustainability and supporting local businesses and developing really good, strong connections on site. The reason I highlight this one is because they are offering a $2,000 automatic discount for USC students only that are first-generation college students or students of color. So if you fall into that category, you might want to look into some of their programs, because this is an automatic discount or scholarship. You don't need to apply for it. You just get that $2,000 off, and that's exclusively for USC students. All right, so steps to study abroad. So number one thing, you have to meet with your academic advisor if you're even thinking about studying abroad. We as study abroad advisors are not going to be able to help you find a program if we don't know what kind of classes you're looking for. So your academic advisor can really let you know which semester is a good fit for you, what classes you should push to your study abroad semester, if you can fit in study abroad for a full year potentially into your academic plan. They're really going to be able to guide you on all of that, so that way you're armed in our study abroad advising appointment, essentially. If you're on our website, you're going to see on our advising page that you'll need to attend a Study Abroad 101 information workshop first. And that workshop is going to go in a lot more detail about all the different program types. I just briefly touched on exchange and partner, but those workshops do a deeper dive into exactly how the study abroad application process works, how to actually choose a program, how to navigate our website, which can sometimes be very, very confusing. All of that fun stuff, and those are peer-led, so you can ask all the questions that you want to get a student perspective. Then you can schedule an appointment with any study abroad advisor. Of course, you're welcome to meet with me since we'll likely be working together on your Gilman application to some extent. Okay, so the fun slide, COVID-19 study abroad updates. So if you scan that, it's just going to take you to our home page, which has a link right on it with the latest COVID-19 information. We did just receive news this week that all Maymester programs for this upcoming summer have been canceled. This shouldn't apply to anyone because Maymester programs are typically under 21 days, and the Gilman Scholarship does require that you study abroad on a program that is at least 21 days in length. If you are looking for this summer, know that nothing is certain. And I wish I could tell you with certainty that, yes, study abroad is going to happen, the pandemic's going to be over, but I unfortunately don't have the authority, the knowledge, or the health expertise to be able to make that call. So it's just a little bit up in the air about how the pandemic is going to play into study abroad for this upcoming summer. On our website, it's going to have all the FAQs that you can imagine, but if your program for the summer does get canceled and you've already applied through us, all that fun stuff, your application fee will be refunded, which is one of the most common questions that we get in our office. If you're looking for summer, we definitely recommend that you don't purchase flights at this time. Don't put down any sort of deposits that are non-refundable. Take the advice of the partner provider that you're working with if you are working with a partner. And if you have any sort of doubts about anything, reach out to our office because we can advise you on what the best course of action is. But based on the Maymester decision, if you are looking for summer programs, we do advise that you try to find programs that are at least 5 weeks in length, if not more, for summer programs. A lot of countries are instituting a 10 to 14 day quarantine requirement for anyone coming into the country. So if your programs are shorter, then you're going to spend most of the time inside your hotel or your housing situation, whatever that living arrangement might be, without actually getting to leave and explore the country or the city that you're studying abroad in. If there are any questions about that, I'm happy to answer them in the chat to the best of my knowledge. But I think whichever of the peer mentors wants to kind of talk about how COVID might have ruined your study abroad plans or study abroad program, I think all three of you have been affected in some capacity. So if you'd like to share, please feel free to jump on.
I could go. So like I said, I'm a part of IBCE, and so as a junior now, last summer I was supposed to go to Taiwan to finish out my year-long in Hong Kong, actually in Taiwan, with a mandatory language program. And sadly, things didn't work out the way that it is. But I think that, like, if anything, you have time, and you can still apply and hold on to it, because that's what I've done with the Gilman Scholarship. So though I haven't been able to use my money or go study abroad, like, it's been super flexible with the Gilman, and I'm sure for Freeman as well, but I can't speak on that, that you can just hold on to your money, save it, and then move it along to some other program that you want. So still apply. I highly recommend it.
Which is the Institute of International Education. These programs are sponsored by U.S. State Department. So that is something to keep in mind as you're working on the application. These are government dollars, taxpayers' dollars, and you need to think about why this program exists, right? So that'll help you form your application. the Gilman Scholarship offers grants to U.S. undergrads of limited financial means to pursue academic studies abroad. So the goal of the Gilman is to give the opportunity to study abroad to students who traditionally would not be able to for a variety of reasons. So students who are underrepresented in study abroad. So this list below kind of outlines that. So students with high financial need. So that's why they have the Pell Grant eligibility requirement. Ethnic minorities, students who are first generation, students with disabilities, non-traditional students. So maybe someone who took a break from school for a while and came back, had kids, that kind of thing. And then underrepresented fields of study as well. So some of our STEM students. Keep these things in mind. Like I said, we'll get to that when we talk about the different essays, but this is something that we will constantly remind you as you're working on your application to, tell them which of these groups you belong to, because if you don't say it, they will not know. In terms of the award benefits, they will award up to $5,000. The average award is around $4,000. And then you can also apply for the critical need language enhancement if you are studying a critical language. Hannah actually was a recipient of that because she's studying Japanese. There is an extra essay that goes along with that, but they will award up to an additional $3,000 for that. That essay can be a little bit tricky just because you're like, oh my gosh, I thought I already got all the information I needed in the other two essays. So definitely come chat with us about that and we'll help you make sure you hit all the points in the different essays and make them distinct. In terms of eligibility, you have to be a US citizen. You need to be an undergraduate student, so no graduate students can apply. You need to be receiving a federal Pell Grant during the time of application or during the study abroad experience. Some students have questions about this. How do they show proof of this? We'll get to that a little bit later. And then additionally, you have to prove that you are getting credit for the program that you are pursuing. And so that's where Anuja comes in. Please talk to her when you are making your plans. It is so much easier for her when she goes back through to already have an idea of who you are and what you're applying for. There's always some surprises with Gilman because there's no way that we can know all of the students, but please keep in contact with Anuja and let her know what you're applying for because there's always a little bit of a challenge sometimes with some of the programs. And so you see here, there's the minimum of 3 weeks, so 21 days abroad. Anuja can talk a little bit more in detail about what constitutes as 21 days. I think typically it's 21 days of programming. So like if you're just in country hanging about for a little bit beforehand and after, the end of your program, that doesn't count as going towards those 21 days, even though you're in country. If you don't have programming, I don't think that counts. But yeah, Anuja, please clarify that.
Yes, you are spot on. 21 days of programming, but just to reiterate what I just said, make sure that you're looking for programs that are at least about 5 weeks in length, because this is what we anticipate USC being able to support because of the pandemic. But in future summers, next summer, summer 2022, if you're looking, you are all right for 3 weeks. I hope. I would really hope.
Yes. So keep in mind that, the Gilman application is not your study abroad application. Those are two distinct processes. So you need to make sure you're up to date on USC's Education Abroad Office timelines and deadlines. You need to make sure if you're applying through one of those third-party provider programs that you're up to date on their requirements as well. And so you have to kind of juggle a couple of different things there. So it is important if you are going to pursue this that you have a relationship with Anuja to a certain degree because it can really help you with those questions. The last piece is that you're studying in any country except countries at a level 3 or 4 on the US state travel advisory system. So that's another piece where there may be some countries that the university will technically allow you to go on that maybe Gilman wouldn't allow you to go on. Right now, everything's in flux because of COVID. a lot of countries are ineligible, or there might be a country, for example, Japan. I don't know where they are right now, but I think they're a level 2 maybe, but they're not accepting Americans. So these are all things that you have to consider as you're applying. It is increasingly complex, but you can talk to the education abroad advisors, you can talk to our peer mentors to kind of commiserate with them because they're going through it as well. But yeah, Nisha, do you want to add anything there?
No, I think that hits on it pretty well. It's really, really just so important to keep in mind what the travel advisory level is for the countries you're looking at. Gilman will let you know that right now you can apply if a program or if a country is a level 3 or 4 at this moment in the pandemic time. But if you're awarded the scholarship and at the time of your departure, the country is still level 3 or 4, you can either defer your award or choose to go on the program still as long as USC supports it and not get the Gilman funding. So they'll lay it out really nicely for you. Gilman has been extremely flexible, and they send out very detailed emails, information about what you need to do if you're thinking about deferring, changing programs, things like that. But again, with the pandemic, things are a little bit different than they have been in the past.
And Anisha, I had a question about the virtual programs. What are they doing about that right now?
Yeah, so one cool thing, cool could be one person's idea of cool and not cool for another person, but there are so many different virtual opportunities. So if you are a junior right now, you're thinking about studying abroad next semester in the fall, but the pandemic hasn't resolved, you can't get over, and you're not able to study abroad at a later term, you can actually think about a virtual internship or a virtual language program, virtual study abroad program. Those are a dime a dozen with our global partners at this moment. So we actually have a few students from last cycle or the cycle before. It's all kind of blending together. One of which she's doing a virtual internship. And those programs are sub $2,000. So if you're getting a $4,000 award from Gilman and your program's only $2,000, that's really great for you because your program is fully covered. And then you have a little bit of padding to keep up with your living costs or whatever it is. You're entitled to that money, which I think is really nice. And the same thing goes for the virtual internships or virtual language programs or study programs. Is there a limit for how long we can defer the Gilman Scholarship? Unfortunately, Paige and I can't answer that question. Gilman will let you know what the deadlines are for you to defer your specific scholarship. You would have to be, of course, an undergraduate student still studying at the university, I can tell you that, but the rules are constantly changing. At the start of the pandemic, they had only said, they're gonna let you defer for one semester, and now it's up to a year and a half, I'm pretty sure. So those are changing quite often.
There was a question about where to find some of these virtual programs that you were talking about.
Yeah, so if you're on any global partner website, which you can look at on our program directory, and I'll get the link for you, there's no specific thing on our website that says here's a list of all the virtual programs, but every partner provider has virtual programming right now. So you can go on this directory, filter by global partner, and you can see what's going on their website. They have a whole virtual tab on every partner provider website. So it should be pretty simple to find it.
All right, let's keep moving along. So I will quickly go over the Gilman Mccain Scholarship. As I said, it's essentially the same thing. It's a newer program, but it is for military families. So any student who is a dependent of active service military members, they do have some kind of specifications that I'll show you in the next slide, can apply. It is also up to $5,000 in flexibility in terms of where you go. So pretty much the same thing as the regular Gilman. we haven't had anyone apply for this one, and we really wish that someone would, because it seems like there aren't that many applicants for this. They're constantly asking us to send students their way. So if you know anyone, or if you happen to be a dependent of active duty service members, please apply for this, because I am pretty confident that you would get the full amount for this award. So outlining the eligibility requirements, same as the regular Gilman, it's the U.S. citizenship, undergraduate students, independent. They have all these different specifications of the following branches that you are eligible for this, and the type of funding that you need to prove that you have. So like with the traditional Gilman, you have the Pell Grant that you need to be receiving. They have this financial aid that you need to verify receiving. But other than that, it is the same. So please still work with us on that. And the application is the same as well. So these are the application requirements for the Gilman Scholarship. So you will have your application online that you will access through the Gilman website. So please take a look at that and get started now. The sooner the better. We will talk about how much time it takes to craft a strong application. But the main components of that application is, biographical information about, your studies, USC, that kind of thing, your program details. And there's two main essays. There's a statement of purpose and the community impact, and we'll talk about those in more detail. The next two things are the advisor certifications. Anuja is the study abroad advisor certifier. She has her own timeline. She will tell you about that towards the end. Don't freak out. She knows that you're applying. She can see who's applying. The financial aid advisor, I'm not sure who it is this semester. They flip back and forth. There's two people who go back and forth.
Let's be real, we never know who it is. So if you select either one of the two names that's in the application, it will be done for you.
It'll happen, yes. So don't stress too much. They know that it's happening. They know the timeline, so you'll be fine. And then the last one is the transcript. So when it says official transcript, you can just get an unofficial transcript from what is it?
mysc.edu, something like that.
That thing, yeah. So if you go to print and you just download it as a PDF and upload that, that is fine. We do not want you spending $12 on an official transcript. Please do not do that. All right, so let's get into the actual essays. Like I said, there are two main essays, and then if you apply for the language enhancement, there's an additional one, but we're just going to focus on the main two, and we're going to get a lot of input from our fellowship peer mentors, because this is the bread and butter of the application. This is where you're going to be spending lots of time. You want to work with both of us, both Anuja and I. We have different opinions, but we work together in the end. So Anuja, do you want to go ahead and start with the statement of purpose?
Yeah, sure. So I'll just give a brief overview, and then I'd love if the peer mentors could kind of talk about their experience with writing the essay and how long it might have taken you to master this essay, things like that. So, so the statement of purpose essay, I would say, is probably the most important of the three now essays that are part of the Gilman application. I've read for the selection committee for National Gilman a year or two ago, and learning a little bit more about how the essays are scored and what the focus is really helped me to know this is the big one. This is the essay you really need to spend a lot of time crafting and reviewing with both Paige and myself. So in this essay, you're essentially going to describe your personal, academic, and professional goals, and how studying abroad on this specific program that you've chosen will help you achieve those goals. So you're kind of, in a way, thinking about it in a mindset of, if you don't study abroad on this program, you're not going to achieve these goals. So think about exact ways that the classes you take on this specific program will contribute to your academic goals, in the sense, yes, degree requirements, but your own personal academic interest. So we don't want to hear you know, I'm taking art history because I have to take an art history Carolina core class at the University of South Carolina in order to graduate. I would use that as an example of something that's not a strong sentence in an essay. We want to hear a little bit more about why you're interested in what you're studying, why you're even studying what you're studying, how you got to that point, and how those certain specific classes you're thinking about taking on the program are going to help you expand your knowledge in that subject. So become an expert in those subject areas. These essays can get very personal as well. So you're essentially telling the reader the story of you, how you came to the University of South Carolina, how you became who you are, what significant life experiences of yours shaped your professional and academic aspirations. So, you know, working with me and Paige, you are going to have to answer these questions with us. And in this essay, knowing that this is going to be a very personal essay. Paige and I are not, you know, sharing your essay on social media or like posting it anywhere or talking to other advisors about it. You do have that confidentiality with us. But if you're writing a very general essay, it's not going to get the traction that you think it will. The statement of purpose essay here is not like any regular essay. I don't know what to say other than you really need to be specific in every single one of your goals. If you say, yeah, I want to work in the field of business, that's pretty broad, don't you think? What specifically do you want to do within the broad field of business? Do you want to work in finance? Why do you want to work in finance? Is it because you want to work with you know, underrepresented students to help them increase their financial literacy, and that's something that you really are passionate about? I'm not sure. I can't write your story, only you can, and that's really going to take all of the openness that you have in these essays. So can I call on some of our peer mentors to just one by one give a brief overview of what it was like working on your essays? Maybe Hannah, do you want to start?
Sure. So for me, it was kind of like, I don't know, a long journey because I was applying for the Gilman for the first time as a freshman. So I had to really think a lot about like future goals and, you know, tying everything together, maybe more so than people who applied later. But I mean, I think it was a really good experience to have early on, and like the more you do it, the easier it gets. So like after like the first, you know, time just really thinking hard about what I wanted to write, applying for like other fellowships was like a bit of a quicker process.
Awesome. Karen, Miyoshe, do you want to share your experience writing the essays?
Yeah. So I actually, whenever I was applying for Gilman, was in this weird situation where I was like kind of abroad and then kind of moving back to America. And so in between like the time differences and everything, I remember like even applying whenever I was applying for like a different scholarship, like CLS, I remember so distinctly, like it was 12 o'clock in Hong Kong and it was 12 p.m. over here in America. And I was like Skyping Jen from like another mentor, and it takes a lot of time, like it really does. But like I think that it's awkward writing because you're really pouring out very specific things about yourself that like it's weird. It really is weird. But I think that like once you figure out how not only to word it, but also how to like, I guess, explain who you are in a nutshell in like 500 words to somebody, you become a lot more succinct and you become a lot more eloquent in like explaining who you are, who you stand for, and like why you want to do X, Y, and Z that you want to do, and like kind of your goals in like achieving that. So it's not just like, oh, I'm Karen, I like business. Like it's, hi, I'm Karen, I really enjoy like design and art, and as a first gen student I like to do X, Y, and Z to help other people, you know. But that's my story, and like I think that like it really makes you think, but it's like also really good self-reflection, not only to have like for now but for later on as well. And it's helped me like not only here but also in like other classes as well, and just life in general. Yeah, no, it's exactly like that. Because the junior, still kind of floating through the I like business moment. But, statement of purpose really hones in on like, why are you doing the things that you're doing, and like really what is your goal and what is your purpose?
So one thing that you kind of should have gotten from everyone is like everyone's experience is different and everyone's essays come out differently. Everyone has different methods to writing and working on them. So you can see here that we have a National Intelligence Blackboard organization, and in that organization we do have hints and tips and past recipients applications on file. While it is a good resource for you to go and look at some past recipients applications, start with your own narrative, right? You have your own story and your own motivations for studying abroad and doing the things that you're doing. So just keep that in mind. Like Anuja and Karen said, the I like business. There's going to be plenty of business students who want to go to Spain, or journalism students who want to go to Italy, but you're not the same as everyone else. So you need to make this application, this essay, specific to you. And you need to tell them those things about you. So, the first bullet here says, be descriptive about your eligibility and if you represent a traditionally underrepresented group and study abroad. That is the goal of the program, right? So if you don't tell them those things about you, as awkward as it is sometimes, it's going to be hard for them to, evaluate if you're a good fit for the program. So make sure you get those things in. Like Anuja said, it will be incredibly personal. We get to know you all really well. But that's one of the things that we like about it so much, is that we really get to bond with US students. And like Anuja said, we keep your information confidential, and share it with us as much as you'd like. Yeah. The last thing to kind of hit on is describing the impact that the Gilman Scholarship will have on you in general, personally. Like, what would this mean for you if you've never left the country before? Talk about why this is a big deal, and how this experience will help you move forward in so many different ways. Yeah, any questions about that essay?
Also, just to point out, yes, you can read example essays from past recipients in the Blackboard organization, but those were shared with permission. So just note, if
Yes,
you
we did not
receive
share
this scholarship, yeah, we will definitely ask. But again, I wouldn't suggest trying to make your essay or craft your essay in a way that's similar to someone else's, because it becomes very obvious to us when we're reading it that this isn't who you are. I don't know how we have that skill, but we seem to have that skill of trying to figure out, who exactly you are, because the essay isn't showing it. So just be yourself in those essays.
All right, I can do this one. So the community impact essay, I think they split this into 2 mini essays this past cycle. It used to be 1, but generally, the main piece here is going to be the follow-on service project proposal. So you kind of have to pay it forward and find the next Gilman scholars in a way, is what they're asking you to do. So they want you to go and share your experience with people in your community, and come up with some kind of plan to do that. We have had a lot of different things, and it's not as difficult as you would think. A lot of times you're already involved with the group that you should reach out to. So again, we have examples of those things, but this will be a project that needs to happen to kind of complete your Gilman experience within 6 months of your return to the US. The second part of that, or I guess the first part, is the citizen diplomat abroad. This is a new piece that they've added, and this is mostly the mutual understanding diplomacy aspect of it. So since this is funded by the State Department, they want to see that you're going to be a good example of the US abroad, and improve our image around the world. And so that's why they're asking for this. How will you commit to the mission of building mutual understanding between the people of your home community and the people of your host community? So when you go abroad, what are you going to share about where you come from and who you who you are as an American. And then when you come back to your hometown, what are you going to share about the people, the language, the culture of the place that you visited? It's pretty simple. It doesn't have to be too exaggerated or over the top. It should be genuine and come from the heart. But does anyone have anything to say on the follow-on service project, what you propose to do? So Miosha, you broke up a little bit there, but if you guys couldn't hear her, she was saying that Gilman has been pretty flexible with her doing the follow-on project because it's been 6 months. I think they're also being quite flexible because of COVID. But yeah, also a lot of students partner with our office, so the National Fellowships Office, or Anuja's office in education abroad to do their projects. So if there's anything that you would like help with, or you have an idea to implement, let us know. It's always good to, have concrete plans. It doesn't have to be the biggest, most grand follow-on project where you're like, I'm going to have hundreds of people attend and I'm going to do this great thing. It doesn't really need to be that. It could be a very small presentation. It could be a presentation at Discover USC, anything like that. And of course, if you need the assistance of me or Anuja, we are happy to help. We encourage you to include our names in the essay to say, I've already spoken with Anuja Parikh in the Study Abroad office, and we're going to work on Black and Abroad panel together. Or I've talked to Paige Jennings. I'm going to be a National Fellowship peer mentor next semester, and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to share my Gilman experience. We would love that. So yeah.
Yeah, and just to kind of reiterate Paige's point about it doesn't need to be this big drawn out plan. From my time on reading for the selection panel, I really realized like this follow-on service project, they just want to see that you have some sort of plan. If you're giving, this elaborate plan, like, yeah, I'm probably going to go back to my high school and like, I hope to have 1,000 students come to this, but don't give any concrete details of how you're actually going to reach this very elaborate goal, I think that hurts you more than it helps you. So even just saying something as simple as, like Hannah just posted in the chat, getting involved with the International House at Maxey, like that's a really great project. We've had several students, including Michaela, who's on this picture right here. She was a panelist for the Black and Abroad event that I host. So there are definitely ways, if you want to do something with either one of our offices, we can just make it happen. Help you make it happen.
Yes, help. We will not make it happen. We'll help you. Yes. All right. So moving along in the interest of time. So here are the timelines. You should be aware that the deadline for this upcoming cycle is March 2nd. Yes. And then Anuja has her own deadline. So she'll be certifying all of your applications in that in-between time. So do not stress out and send her tons and tons of emails the day of the 2nd or the 3rd. Like, Anuja, did you do this? She's working on it, she knows.
I got it. You don't need to send me an email. I will not certify anyone's application until after the applicant deadline, just so I capture every single person that has completed a full application. So it'll happen sometime between then. Like this day, it's my birthday, so I'm not going to do it on that day. So I'll probably do it the day before or the Friday before, but it'll get done by the deadline. You don't have to worry too much about that.
Yes. Another question that we get sometimes is when should I apply, right? So Gilman pretty much gives you 2 shots now. And I almost always recommend that a student goes for it the first time, even if they aren't completely, confident that they're going to be able to put together the most excellent application. Go for it the first time, because if you end up getting it, that would be great. And then you don't have to worry about it and you can, have the money and just look for more money after that. And we've had students do that and to their surprise got it the first time and they're like, wow, this is awesome. I don't even have to worry about applying again. And if you don't get it that first time, you'll already have a really solid first draft to get going for the second time around. So go ahead and apply the first time. That's what we recommend. Yep. Hannah's one of those people, exactly. Hannah, worked hard on the first one, but as a freshman, it's a little bit challenging because you don't have as many experiences and stuff. I said, go ahead and go for it. Didn't get it the first time, reapplied the second time, and got the full amount and the language enhancement award. So definitely worth it to get that extra help with it. Don't feel bad. We've all experienced a no win before. It happens all the time, and we are proud of you either way for going through the process of applying.
I would also say if you're looking at programs for later, spring 22 or academic year, whatever it is, I think there are less applicants right now than there will be once the pandemic has resolved, and in previous semesters. In previous semesters, there have been a lot more applications nationally. So if you're applying right now, there are less people that are looking to study abroad or even thinking about it. So I don't want to get your hopes up, but I do think that the applicant pool is less.
Yeah, and that's something that we're seeing across the board for these international exchange national fellowships. Not for the ones that are for after you graduate, those are staying pretty consistently, like people are applying, but for the ones that are happening during the undergrad years, the numbers are significantly down, and so people aren't applying. So you should see that as a window of opportunity and apply. All right, so we're gonna keep pushing along. I'm gonna kind of breeze through these next few slides about the Freeman-Asia. Hannah has won that and can give you a little bit of background information on how they've handled things with the pandemic and funding and everything. But Freeman-Asia, again, is also administered by IAE. It is sponsored by the State Department. Very similar goals to the Gilman program, but with the focus on study in Asia and the emphasis on language study. They also have an emphasis on longer term study abroad. So you must spend at least 8 weeks for a summer program or 12 weeks for a semester program to apply for the Freeman-Asia. You must have at least 1 term of enrollment remaining upon return, which is also a little bit different from Gilman. I don't know if they're being flexible with this at all right now because of the pandemic, but my gut tells me that they've been a little less flexible than Gilman overall. And I'll let Hannah talk about that in a second. The award benefits are quite similar. They also have a year-long option. So if you're going for the full year, you could get up to $7,000, but the semester is up to $5,000, and then summer is up to $3,000, which is a little bit different because for Gilman, you could do a summer program and still get up to $5,000. Preference is given to intensive language study. So if you're just going to a country and you have no language study as part of your program, you're probably not going to be too competitive for this award. Application requirements, pretty much the same thing. The statement of purpose, you can use essentially the same essay that you've used for Gilman, and we've had students do that successfully. Hannah made a couple of tweaks between her essays because I think they have different length requirements for some of them as well, and Gilman's had a couple of changes, but the follow-on service project proposal, same kind of thing. You can propose the same thing, just switch out your Gilmans for Freeman-Asia, that kind of thing. One thing that I will say for our Darla people, Darla has a Freeman-Asia scholarship as well. They are not the same, but the money is from the same pot. So it's from the same foundation. You can apply for both, but you cannot receive both. So that is something to keep in mind. If you hear about Freeman in Darla, it is not this same one. This one is a nationally competitive award, and the Darla one is internal. We do encourage you to apply for both and see who gives you the most money and take that one. Hannah, do you want to talk about your application, maybe how you adapted between Gilman and Freeman-Asia, and also how Freeman-Asia dealt with deferral of funds or those kinds of things?
Right. So For Freeman-Asia, I completed my first Gilman application before I started the Freeman-Asia application, and I basically just shortened it and changed around a few things. So it was pretty easy after putting in a bunch of effort for the Gilman. Unfortunately, I had to decline the award because they haven't been like super flexible with COVID stuff. So I was originally supposed to study abroad this fall for the academic year 2021, or I guess it'll be last fall now. And they would only let me defer it to this spring semester, spring 2021, which I couldn't study abroad this semester because I felt like I'm gonna get sent home early. Like I just want to wait until the next academic year to go for it, and they wouldn't let me extend it upon that to that term. And they also don't accept like virtual study abroad, which Gilman does. But like of course, like I'm planning on applying for it this spring, and hopefully being able to keep it. But yeah.
Yeah, so not as flexible. So that is a little bit of a challenge. I'll also mention that they only have one cycle a year. They used to have two like Gilman, but they've only got one shot. So if you're interested in applying, this is your one opportunity to apply. So those are the deadlines. And again, you still have the certification from Anuja, and then someone in the registrar or the financial aid office will do that piece. All right, we're getting towards the end, guys. Next steps. Like Anuja said, follow the steps to study abroad. Talk to your academic advisor, and then go to, talk to the Education Abroad office to choose a program. You need to go to their 101. I guess they still have them virtual workshops that they offer.
Every single day. Can't miss it.
Every single day. Wow. Okay. Go to one of those and choose your program. And then you need to determine your eligibility for a national fellowship, Gilman or otherwise. There's lots of different national fellowships out there that you can apply for. But speaking of Gilman and Freeman-Asia, because that's what we're focused on, make sure you are eligible and the program that you are applying for is eligible. I cannot say how many times I've had students come in and show me a draft only to find out that they do not receive a Pell Grant and never have and probably never will. So please be mindful of that. Begin the online application and begin drafting the essays. That's going to be a push for you to do that. Go and look into what the requirements are, and then come and meet with me and Anuja. Send us copies of your essays. Please don't send a PDF version. That is the worst thing to try to edit. So please send us a Word doc version. That's always best for me. And make sure you send us essays at least 24 hours before you have an appointment with us. You will meet with us separately, of course. We have our own system, but both of us are through Navigate. But yeah, that's kind of the process for getting essay feedback. Explore our Blackboard. I'll get to that in a second about the things that we have in there. It's very useful. We have it there for a reason, so take a look and submit your materials on time. Don't stress us out about working hard on these essays and not actually hitting submit. Anything you want to add to those next steps, Anuja?
Nope, that sounded good to me.
Yeah, one thing I'll say is for the essay feedback, it will be awkward. And I'm sure the FPMs can talk about that. It can be a little bit scary to first share your drafts with us. We've seen them all. We've seen a lot of different things. The examples that you see are not the first drafts in any way, shape, or form. So do not feel intimidated when you see those. Yeah, so in Blackboard, you guys will be added to our Blackboard National Fellowship Advising organization. Within that, there's a Find Your Fellowship tab, and you can go and find the Gilman folder. In that folder, we have steps to study abroad, our past recipients' essays, application hints and tips, FAQs. We do have our fellowship peer mentors listed in our general fellowship resources. So we have lots of Gilman winners who would love to talk to you. Please reach out to me. I'll drop my email in there if you want to meet with them. We have a Take a Peer Mentor to Coffee program. We'll pay for the coffee if you want to meet in person. If you don't feel comfortable, you can meet them virtually. We also have other study abroad scholarships in there, like the one Anuja just sent, called the Fund for Education Abroad. There's lots of different ones, lots of different national fellowships that I will advise on or recommend to you if you come and talk to me. And then there's also some like internal or smaller name awards potentially in the future. So kind of sort through that page for that information.
I think the biggest thing to remember is come meet with us, which is a great segue into this question's contact information. Take down our contact information. We can only help you on these essays if you actually reach out to us, if you schedule appointments with us. I know, some people like to do it alone. That's fine, but your essays are ultimately, I think, going to be stronger if you get feedback from either one of us. If you only want to meet with Paige, totally fine. That is completely fine. That has happened many times before. I guess I scare people. Just kidding. But
no, I think it works both ways.
Yeah, I know.
But I will say that the students that have worked with both of us are typically more successful because Anuja and I have a little bit of different perspectives because of our backgrounds, but we both have an idea of, what different readers like. And I think we kind of strike a middle balance that is a really safe and good option. So if you can meet with both of us and get, different eyes on it, and we really want to help you. We get really upset when we see a student who brings in an application or essay that has so much potential, but it's a week before the deadline and you're like, I don't know if it's gonna quite get there. We're still gonna do our best to work with you, but please come in early. We're okay with the first draft being super rough, but come in with something and we'll kind of help you go from there. But yeah, happy to answer any questions. If you guys want to stay behind, thank you so much. We will send a follow-up, or I will send a follow-up email from my office with, next steps as well. But thank you all for joining us, and thank you for FPMs.